On January 21st, 1793, King Louis XVI of France is executed by guillotine in Paris. But why were the French people calling for the king's death? And why was the guillotine the preferred method of execution at the time? 23 years earlier, in 1770, Louis married Austrian Archduchess Marie Antoinette. He was 15, she was 14. They met for the first time just 2 days before the wedding. Louis's father had died 5 years before the marriage, making Louis the heir to the throne at a very young age. Louis and Marie Antoinette had some fertility struggles. This put a strain on their marriage and placed intense public pressure on Marie Antoinette, since her number one job was to produce a male heir. In those days, and sometimes today, people assumed fertility issues were the fault of the woman. Interestingly, it was apparently Louis who had the infertility problem, which may have been corrected by surgery. After 8 difficult years, they finally had a child, and then added 3 more, 2 of them sons. In 1774, Louis's grandfather, Louis XV, died just 4 years after Louis and Marie Antoinette's wedding, and Louis XVI ascended to the throne. He was just 19 years old and ill-equipped for the challenging times he faced. Louis's grandfather had bankrupted the country, fighting and losing the 7 Years' War. Louis XVI further damaged the economy, helping the U.S. win independence from France's arch-enemy, Britain. This resulted in economic turmoil and skyrocketing inflation. The French Revolution began in 1789 with the storming of the Bastille, just months after George Washington was elected the first U.S. president. Outwardly, Louis accepted the revolution, but he was unwilling to truly reform the monarchy to appease the masses. In 1791, the royal family attempted to flee to Marie Antoinette's native Austria, but they were captured at the border. The public was outraged that the king would seemingly abandon them. In 1792, the monarchy was abolished, and a year later, Louis was executed, using the preferred method during the French Revolution, the guillotine, which had been invented 3 years earlier by French doctor Joseph-Ignace Guillotine, who was seeking a more humane method to administer the death penalty. 10 months later, Marie Antoinette followed Louis XVI to the scaffold. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1813, soldier, explorer, and first Republican presidential nominee John C. Fremont is born in Georgia. In 1924, Soviet Premier Vladimir Lenin, architect of Russia's Communist Revolution, dies at age 54. In 1977, U.S. President Jimmy Carter grants an unconditional pardon to Vietnam War draft evaders. In 1990, John McEnroe is disqualified from the Australian Open for arguing with a match official. In 2008, worldwide stock markets plunge, signaling one of the worst financial crises in history. In 2009, final 2008 sales figures show that Toyota has surpassed GM as the world's largest automaker. In 2020, Welsh actor and director Terry Jones, a member of Monty Python, dies at 77 of dementia. And now, it's time for our Today in History quiz. Which queen was England's longest-serving monarch? Elizabeth I, Anne, Victoria, or Elizabeth II? Liked learning about Louis XVI and the French Revolution? Then you'll love this one about how not just the French, but the Spanish helped the U.S. win its independence from Britain. Tap the screen to keep the story going on Today in History.